Welcome to Have You Read It, the channel where we bring books to life, one summary at a time. Whether you're here for self-help, personal growth, or business inspiration, there's something for everyone. Today, we're diving into Seth Godin's Purple Cow: Transform Your Business by Being Remarkable. This book, originally published in 2002, explores the changing landscape of marketing in a world saturated with choices and starved for time. It introduces the concept of the purple cow, something remarkable, noteworthy, and buzzworthy, as the key to cutting through the clutter and achieving genuine business growth. For years, marketers relied on the 5 Ps: product, pricing, promotion, positioning, and publicity. Godin argues these are no longer enough. In a world overflowing with products and advertising, the only way to stand out is to be remarkable, to be a purple cow. He uses the analogy of driving through France and seeing countless ordinary cows. At first, they're interesting, but quickly become boring. A purple cow, though, would be something worth noticing. Godin argues that the TV industrial complex, the symbiotic relationship between consumer demand, TV advertising, and company growth, is dying. Consumers are bombarded with advertising and have become adept at ignoring it. They have everything they need and most of what they want except time. This new consumer, the post-consumption consumer, is too busy to pay attention to traditional marketing. The book explores the shift from before advertising, where word of mouth drove success, to during advertising, where mass media ruled, and finally to after advertising, where networked word of mouth powered by the internet propels remarkable ideas at lightning speed. He uses the example of sliced bread, a great innovation that failed until Wonder Bread marketed it effectively 2 decades later. This demonstrates the power of marketing, but also foreshadows its eventual decline. Several groundbreaking business books are mentioned, including The Pursuit of Wow, The One-to-One Future, Crossing the Chasm, The Tipping Point, and Permission Marketing. These books anticipated the changing dynamics of marketing, but Godin argues that most companies treat their insights as mere fads rather than fundamental shifts. Godin uses the example of aspirin to illustrate the challenge of marketing in a saturated market. With so many pain relievers available, a new one, even if slightly better, would struggle to gain attention. Consumers are unlikely to switch from a trusted product and are too busy to listen to advertising about a new one. This same principle applies to various industries, from yoga books to pizza. Most people won't buy your product because they lack the money, time, or interest. Consumers are bombarded with choices and have little time to sift through them. They rely on trusted brands or recommendations from friends. This creates a squeeze play for marketers who can't reach consumers through traditional channels. Godin highlights 3 key reasons why traditional marketing fails in today's environment. 1. All the obvious targets are gone, so consumers are less likely to have easily solved problems. 2. Consumers are hard to reach because they ignore advertising. 3. Satisfied customers are less likely to tell their friends about new products because they're not revolutionary enough to warrant attention. The book discusses the death of the TV industrial complex in detail. Companies once built factories, bought TV ads, and watched sales soar. Profits were then reinvested in more ads, creating a self-perpetuating cycle. This worked for brands like Procter & Gamble and Cap'n Crunch. However, consumers are no longer receptive to mass-market advertising, making this model obsolete. The old rule of marketing was to create safe, ordinary products and combine them with great marketing. The new rule is to create remarkable products that people actively seek out. This requires a shift from targeting the masses to targeting influential early adopters who can spread the word. Godin emphasizes that remarkable products are worth talking about. He defines remarkable as something exceptional, new, and interesting, a purple cow. Boring products, on the other hand, are invisible. He argues that remarkable marketing involves building buzzworthiness directly into the product, not just adding it as a last-minute tactic. Godin dismisses the notion that awareness is the goal of marketing. He cites Sergio Zeman, who points out that two of Coke's most famous commercials didn't increase sales. Awareness is pointless if it doesn't translate into action. The book encourages marketers to design products that are remarkable enough to attract early adopters, yet also accessible enough for those early adopters to spread the idea to the mainstream. He explains that most consumers won't actively seek out your product. They need to be persuaded by their peers. The book explores the concept of sneezers, influential individuals who spread ideas. He argues that successful products are virus-worthy, designed from the start to be talked about and shared. This requires targeting niche markets and creating products that resonate with their specific needs and desires. He cautions against the misconception that idea viruses happen organically. They require careful engineering. Godin suggests focusing on the customers who are actually listening, rather than trying to reach everyone. He argues that it's useless to advertise to anyone except interested sneezers with influence. This means targeting consumers who are actively looking for solutions to their problems. He uses the example of Google Ads, which are contextually relevant and targeted to users who are likely to click. The book highlights several companies that are cheating by using innovative marketing strategies rather than traditional advertising. Examples include JetBlue, Starbucks, Vanguard, Amazon.com, Google, Wendy's, Ducati, and HBO. These companies found success by being different, not by following the rules. Godin stresses the importance of targeting the right customers, not just the most customers. He uses the example of a bank that discovered its most frequent online banking users also held the majority of its deposits. While they represented a small percentage of the customer base, they were the most valuable. He explains the law of large numbers, which states that large numbers are often accompanied by small percentages. Reaching millions of people is pointless if only a tiny fraction buy your product. He uses the example of banner ads, which have a very low click-through rate. The book encourages marketers to measure their results. Direct marketers understand this, but mass marketers often resist it because measurement reveals what's not working. Godin emphasizes that measuring results allows you to optimize your offerings and make them more virus-worthy. Godin challenges the emphasis on projections and profits in traditional marketing. He argues that mass marketing leads to boring products designed to appeal to everyone, resulting in products that appeal to no one. He also criticizes large marketing budgets, which force companies to avoid risky bets and don't allow for the time it takes for ideas to spread organically. He argues that the opposite of remarkable isn't bad, it's very good. Very good is invisible. To be remarkable, you have to be willing to be criticized. He cites examples like the Aeron chair and My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which were successful despite receiving mixed reviews. He encourages marketers to embrace criticism, noting that even the best creators have flops. He challenges the notion of following the leader, arguing that the leader is only the leader because they did something remarkable first. Copying them won't make you remarkable. He uses the analogy of birds flying in formation, noting that even they take turns leading. The book explores the parody paradox, which states that unique products are often parodied, but this actually increases their visibility. He cites J. Peterman and Martha Stewart as examples. Most companies avoid being parodied because they fear ridicule, but Godin argues that being parodied signifies you have something unique. Godin discusses the importance of selling what people are buying and talking about. He criticizes Butterball for introducing pot pies with TV commercials on the Food Network, arguing that this audience isn't looking for convenience food. He contrasts this with Altoids, which successfully targeted a niche market with a remarkable product and targeted advertising. He cautions against compromise, arguing that it leads to boring products. He explains that compromise involves sanding down the rough edges to appease various constituencies, resulting in products that lack distinction. He encourages marketers to embrace extremes and avoid internal reviews that stifle creativity. Godin suggests that instead of constantly doing something in marketing, sometimes it's better to do nothing. He argues that constant refreshing with mediocre messaging and products hinders word-of-mouth marketing. He cites Ben & Jerry's and Macintosh as examples of companies that avoid this trap. He encourages marketers to find the otaku, the passionate enthusiasts who are most likely to become sneezers. These are the people who will drive across town to try a new ramen shop or spend hours researching a new gadget. He argues that smart businesses target markets where otaku already exists. Godin emphasizes the importance of building the marketing into the product. He uses examples like Dr. Bronner's soap with its unique packaging, Tiffany's blue box, and the Leaning Tower of Pisa, which are inherently remarkable. He also discusses the power of slogans, arguing that they provide a script for sneezers to use when recommending your product. He cites Tiffany's and Hooters as examples. The book offers a process for creating purple cows, which involves going for the edges and challenging your team to explore the extremes of your product or service. He also suggests reinvesting profits from successful purple cows into creating new ones, rather than simply milking the existing cow. Godin argues that in today's world, everyone is a marketer. Marketing is no longer a separate department. It's an integral part of product development, design, pricing, and sales. He encourages marketers to think like designers, focusing on creating remarkable products rather than just advertising them. He explores the importance of passion in creating remarkable products, noting that many successful products originate from people with a deep personal interest in what they're creating. He uses examples like Starbucks, the Burton snowboard, and the Learjet. He also offers 2 techniques for marketers who aren't passionate about their products. 1. Learn the art of projecting, putting yourself in the shoes of your target audience. 2. Learn the science of projecting, using a disciplined process of launching products, measuring results, and iterating. Godin asks whether outrageousness is required for remarkability. He argues that it's not always necessary, and sometimes it's just annoying. The key is to have a purpose behind the outrageousness and to build it into the product itself. He cites Hooters as an example of a company that uses outrageousness effectively. He challenges the notion that cheap is always good, arguing that it can lead to price wars that erode profits. The exception is when a company can achieve a quantum leap in pricing through innovation, like IKEA or Walmart. He also addresses the challenge of maintaining a purple cow once it becomes successful. He uses the example of Stu Leonard's, which became boring after achieving popularity. He emphasizes the importance of constantly innovating and creating new purple cows to maintain growth. He asks whether the purple cow is about passion. He argues that while passion can be helpful, it's not essential. The key is to recognize that the old ways of marketing no longer work, and to embrace the need for remarkability. The book concludes with several brainstorming ideas for creating purple cows, encouraging marketers to explore the edges of their products and services. He suggests focusing on niche markets, outsourcing, building a permission asset, copying ideas from other industries, and constantly asking, why not? Thanks for watching. Have you read it? Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss our next book dive.